Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SurgeCast. And surprisingly enough, it's ladies edition today. What's up, Bales?
Hey, what's up? Long time no see. I feel like it's been a bit.
I know you're all, busy with another team that shall not be named. It's
Ah,
fine.
well, we're gonna have to name it here soon, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a trip.
But unfortunately, Zach is a little bit under the weather. So he took this recording off. So everyone send well wishes and get wells to Zach.
You should
But
still be able to expect a Locked On Hurricanes.
yeah, it
Just
might just be
two
a
shows
little
is a little much.
yeah, it might be a little raspy here and there. He doesn't have it in it to banter back and forth with us.
Oh
It
yeah,
wasn't gonna
we give him
last.
too much crap. I don't blame him.
But yeah, for tonight you've got Kat and
And Bailey.
so welcome, Bailey. It's a really nice time to be a Carolina Hurricane.
Oh, absolutely. The win streak has been snapped, unfortunately, but there's still a lot of winning and great Carolina Hurricanes hockey to look forward to.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it, but it was a kind of perfect storm to break that win streak. So not even really faulting the boys too much on that.
Oh no, not at all.
But of course, the first we got to talk about is the last two home games that we played against Metro rivals, and we have the Flyers and the Penguins. Both those games, like me and Zach kind of said, they were kind of like you should win these and you needed to win them. And they did. The Flyers was actually a little bit scarier than it should have been.
From what I heard, I wasn't able to I was able to watch more of the Pens game than I was the Flyers game. From everything that I heard, the Flyers game was a game that the Hurricanes tried to give away, and then kind of squeaked out with.
I will say, as I was there, that was probably one of the most frustrating games to watch. And I will give a lot of props to the Flyers coach. He really knows how to play his team against the Canes.
Ron Tortorella is just a tough coach overall, too.
They were just like, our guys could not breathe. The amount of times I would see Jordan Stahl, Jarvis, anyone turning to get to open ice and to move, there was a Flyer. Like literally, it almost felt like they were standing there just blocking their path no matter where they went. And if they got the puck, they were right on top of them. So sometimes I was like, I feel like there's some penalties there that aren't getting called. But yeah, so it was a little I could feel the guys felt they couldn't breathe while they were playing. And so it took us out of our game a little bit. Yes, we didn't play our absolute best. It felt weird because it didn't feel like we were playing down to a team that was lower than us, which the Flyers are. I think, are they towards the bottom? Are they at the bottom of our division?
I've got to pull up stats now.
I think they're either the bottom or second. But sometimes we play down to those teams. I don't think we played down to those teams. I think that the team played up to us.
They're currently sixth in the division, by the way.
Okay. So I can definitely also see why when I tuned into their game against the Caps previously, there were so many fights with them. They're scrappy. They're trying to get the wins any way they can. So it was a really nice game that the Canes kind of pulled out of their back pocket because it didn't look like it should have been a game we would win for a while.
It's one of those games that I think Rod Brind'Amour and the team would kind of look at as like okay, maybe it's not the best game you ever played, but it shows the resilience of the team. It shows that there's a lot of adversity. And if a team can work through that, there's a lot that it like you can pretty much overcome anything. And the Canes have had a few different games like that this season. I would categorize the Vancouver game as one of those as well. But it's not a game that you want to run into often. Especially with as hot as the Canes have been lately, too.
It's one of the few games where they actually started being down first. The Canes have actually been on a really good streak of scoring first against their opponents, which compared to last season is a really nice change of pace because it did feel like we were getting scored on first a lot last season. And everyone was like, here we go, time to fight back. And not that we weren't good at fighting back and getting back, but after a while, Cardiac Canes need a little bit more of like, let's actually
There's only so much
lead.
negativity you can take at one time.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was a game where you started down, but then you also get some beautiful passes and you start getting that. Honestly, our fourth line and our second line have been kind of dominating the score sheet for a little bit. And it was love to see like that all around. This was another game of that all around effort because you get Blake with the first goal with a beautiful. I will say again, I said last episode when we were talking about players and like who to watch, who we were impressed by. I am so impressed with Jack Drury this season. Jack Drury has taken the role and he said, you know what? I might be fourth line center, but I'm going to play like I'm your second or your first, and you're going to put me on the ice more no matter what. And he has. He's on the ice nonstop. The amount of responsibility that Rod has given him defensively with him being on the penalty kill, and also especially on the penalty kill when we've had those so many 5-on-3s, he's so good. His stick is on everything. He's throwing the body. He's getting the passes out. Like he is playing like a man on a mission. Like I want to submit my spot here as a center.
And I mean, it's one of those things too. I mean, you hear it everywhere. Rod doesn't number his lines. He's the kind of person, he's looking for a chemistry first type of matchup. And if you are playing well with your teammates, if you're playing well with the rest of your line, that's going to determine how much playing time you get on the ice, how many minutes you get out there to battle, and how much responsibility you're given. Jack Drury may have had a little bit of adversity to deal with the last season, this season too, but he's stepped up. You can't sit there and deny that he knows what his job is and he's doing his job well.
I think it's kind of a interesting view because for him and Jarvis, they're no longer like the babies of the team. Now they're going into like, oh, we're actually people that other teammates look up to. They want us to, we know our job now. They look to us for those passes, for what to do on these plays. And so the connection with Drury and Blake has been fantastic. And it's kind of funny to be like, you know, Drury's his elder, but
I think Drury kind of learned a little bit after being on a line with Nason all last season too. And you know, once you lose a guy like that and you lose a teammate, lose a line mate to another team, you kind of, it's kind of like a culture shock almost, whereas like you were kind of used to being the follower, and now you've got to step into this leadership role to help out all these younger guys who are still getting used to the system, who are trying to work into, you know, Rod Brind'Amour can be a really, really hardcore coach sometimes because it's a really tough system to run into. It can sometimes be a little predictable, as I've heard other teams now say, but it is a really defensive first style of hockey, and it's a really tough system to get to learn. And now Jack Drury has that under his belt, and he can sit there and pass that knowledge and pass some of that wisdom that maybe he got from a guy like Steph Nason and give it to those other guys, and they seem to be thriving with it, which is really, really exciting to see for a team that was not projected to be as good as they currently are.
Yeah, and a guy that has, it's kind of like the pressure's off because nobody had as high expectations for us this season, and they're thriving under the less pressure from around the league, whereas Edmonton Oilers are not. But I would say, as you said, we are very defensive minded, and that is what Rod really looks for in his players. He's like, listen, I need you. Yes, we need you to go out there and score, but getting back and being my two-way where you're able to defend just as much, I'm going to give you more ice time and I can depend on you in more circumstances. And you know who I'm seeing is really flourishing with that? And we talked about it in last episode, and I will gladly eat my words because previous seasons I have complained nonstop that this man, he had so much more potential and he just wasn't giving it to us. But this season of Natchez, I really say that he is doing so well is because his defense has stepped up. Rod is trusting him. He gave him a double shift on it. And even when he does some of his like fancy turnovers, I've seen him get back and stop the play, make the defensive effort. Like his defense has taken a step up to the point where Rod's like, I trust you more, because that's what he looks for.
No, and let's just talk about too the surge of confidence that he has had, which normally with Stefan Nason, he kind of has a little bit of a rut towards the beginning of the season.
Natchez?
Sorry. Who did I say?
Nason.
Oh my God. That's how you can tell it's late. Good grief. I'm not used to it
Late.
being so
What
dark.
time is it? What
No,
time
I'm
is
not.
it over there, Bailey?
Okay, it's not late, but it's dark outside, and I'm still not used to it. Anyway, no, Nate just like he kind of falls into a little bit of a rut at the beginning of the season, and then we kind of see a fall off during playoffs. You're seeing a lot more of that consistency step into a consistent role early on in the season, which I think is super important for setting the tone for this Hurricanes team, because they went in with the expectations being as rock bottom as they've been the past 5 years. So there's literally nothing to live up to. Not only are you being super defensive, but there's scoring. You're seeing this
He's taking those
surge.
quick shots that you wanted from him, like that slap shot, like you wanted from him all last season on the power play.
You see him
and he'd hold it, and you're like, please shoot it, and he'll take those shots now.
Yeah, and you see him dipsy doodling into the zone, in the offensive zone, and that just goes to show the amount of confidence that has kind of surged with, maybe there are some expectations. I don't exactly know the stipulations that were laid out in this contract. Obviously, there's a lot that we as fans don't know, but there's of course some expectations with a contract like his going into this season. He wants more he wants to be given more of that responsibility, and I'm sure Rod and the entire team pushed back and said, you want more responsibility, earn it. And that is exactly what he's doing.
And it's interesting because you've got him, and honestly that line that he's on, you're just seeing all of it flourish. Like KK is doing exactly what we've been saying forever. He's putting in the defensive work. The goals are starting to come for him now, but he's been able to set up Natchez and Robinson multiple times. And look at Robinson popping on the sheet for multiple games, just being in the right place, right time, just thriving with that line that none of us predicted him to be on the second line.
Let's pause real quick and talk about Kokoniemi. He might not be showing up very much goal-wise on the score sheet. He's currently 4th on the team in assists.
Yep.
And I didn't even look at points as a whole, which points he's a little bit lower on. He's tied for 5th.
I mean, he's a little bit lower on because everyone's sharing the wealth right now. Martinook has taken a resurgence.
Oh my God.
We've got a resurgence from Martinook. Burns is getting in with multiple assists right now. Roslovic is popped off with us.
Roslovic is having himself a career season.
And we'll talk as we're talking about Roslovic, and I mentioned Martinook, so we'll go ahead and talk about the Pittsburgh game. Okay, so I know Zach was giving me a little bit like, when are the TikToks coming back? So I had recently found some very old actual like paper tickets from the Carolina Hurricanes versus Pittsburgh Penguins, PNC Arena, Tuesday, January 12th, 2016. It's from the second level. It's in the 200s, and it was for $60. The 200s for $60.
That's
is insane. I also know at this time, I'm pretty sure, Doug, this was a different time if you're listening to our podcast. I'm pretty sure I got this ticket, and it was so like open seating. Like there weren't that many people attending. This is a little bit of a free for all. I'm pretty sure I got this ticket and then went to go sit lower bowl with my parents. I just got this ticket to get into the game.
I really hope some of the team is not listening too, because this is the same era that my father and his friends would go to games, get tickets like top row for like $40, and they'd sit and look at Ticketmaster, look at their ticketing apps on their phone, sit up there for the first period, watch the lower bowl to see which seats weren't sat in, and then they'd migrate down. Like
I could always find an open seat down there. And I do remember like the fact that that's a Pittsburgh Penguins game. I definitely have photos of going to that game. I used to dread playing the Pittsburgh Penguins because those were the years that was like a research, like they were big and we were struggling. So I remember times where I watched Sidney those Crosby games, we couldn't even get out of our own defensive zone. I was like, we can't get over this blue line. The fact that we just watched this team play Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we immediately scored 5 unanswered goals on them.
We're
almost
doing
2
this
per period and dominating. Like we didn't even get Crosby'd. Like it's just like the reversal of roles is wild to me. And to see it from 2016 to now, Like, if you guys ever think like this team is like, we've made the playoffs or we haven't got past like X, Y, and Z, all of this, just looking at that ticket and seeing how far we've come to now, mind-boggling. And I'm so thankful for everything that the Kings have done that now I'm like, I make sure I have a ticket to this game because it might be sold out and there's not going to be open seats anywhere.
No, the Canes are doing this against a team where Dubas has basically come out and said, we're in rebuild mode. Nobody is off the table unless your name is Sidney Crosby. Like that's how you know, like this is a struggling team. But even if it wasn't, this is a really, really impressive Hurricanes team too. To sit there and say, you know, Sidney Crosby is off the table, like not on the chopping block, not willing to let him go at all. And he still can't measure up to what this Canes team is putting up against him and his team.
Yeah, it just felt like I was celebrating nonstop as I was watching that game. You get Martin.
It's hard not to.
You get Martin starting the Marty party. I mean, this man, even on the games where we seem like we're kind of faltering a little bit or might be out for the count, he single-handedly is like, nope, I'm going to boulder my way into here. I'm going to make sure. I mean, he got our captain. We'll talk about this in a second. He got our captain a shorty. Like, that's insane. But you get the research, like you get Rozovic, who is already done what he did in the past. Like, he's surpassing what he did.
So his total for his season with the New York Rangers last year was 9 goals. He hit that in, what was it, 12 games?
Yes, with
the Hurricanes,
with maybe 1 secondary assist, which is really funny.
Which oh God.
I will point out as we talk about Rozovic, because I also noticed this in the last game. So what we have noticed too is we've talked about a lot about like our fourth line and a lot about these different guys. You've kind of seen a disappearance of Sebastian Aho on the ice. He's still getting assists here and there. He's still setting up plays. But I'm seeing him not take as many shots, and I'm seeing I just don't see him as present. And all of us are a little bit used to. He does have slumps every now and then at the beginning of his seasons. I do think it's a little interesting. So this is the first yes, he's had slumps before, but this is his first season, and I think since he's been on the team that Teuvo Teravainen is not there, whether on his line or not. And he is on a line with 2 guys that are literally shoot first mentality, where he's normally had a very pass first mentality player that was like Teravainen paired with him was they literally were a passing exhibit half the time. So I think it's going to take a little adjustment on his game. His teammates are thriving. I think it's going to take an adjustment because he doesn't normally play with those. He's played with Sech before, but when he's played with Sech, he's also maybe had Natchez when Natchez was passing a lot. Teuvo when he was a big passer. Like Gensel would pass, their passes were back and forth. Rozovic, you've seen from his lack of assists, he does try, but I do think he is a shoot first mentality, which is not bad because we've always wanted that on the Canes. And Svetch is a power forward. He's not the delicate, let me twirl around and do these nice swift little passes.
Yeah.
So I want to see Aho get back into the game. I'm not saying him taking this time to figure out his new line mates is fine because the rest of the team is really excelling. But I really do want to see him start to click because we definitely are going to need him in the long run. He is a talent that I really need to start catching fire because when times get tough, I think he really shines, just like how we say Natchez in the overtime and everything. So I want to say it's not just that we don't have Teuvo anymore, but I definitely think that type of quality of player, we're missing a little bit that chemistry that was between them.
It's hard to see too because you think of what he kind of produced last season, and the Canes couldn't keep up with what he needed, and they had that players only meeting in Vancouver where things were really struggling, and all of a sudden he's that big voice that kind of helps push them up. And you see him kind of, it's not just a point of oh yeah, he's getting assists, maybe he's doing a little bit here and there. The Avalanche game was a really good opportunity for me to see things in person.
He had no shots,
invisible.
Bailey. He had no shots.
Invisible that entire game.
Shout out to one of our sponsors. I did a DraftKings and I was just shots, and Rozovic took the shot count that I bet on in the first period maybe, And the whole game, I was like, Aho, get a shot. I said you were going to get 3 more shots. And he had none, which is wild because that's not the Aho we know. Like, I even looked at previous games. He was doing pretty well. Most of them, he would have 3 or more shots. Avalanche, nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen, especially towards like the end where Martin got them within a goal. So I was like,
especially with the cluster of things that went wrong with that whole trip out there. There's a lot that you could blame on, players maybe not living up to expectations too, but this has been a consistent thing with Aho so far this season. And it's not something you want to see from a guy who's got a contract. Who we have for 8 more years? 7
I mean,
more years?
granted, this is the first time he seems to have a little bit of a slump, more than we're like normally expect.
Right.
Again, different line mates, a few different teammates. The whole, like, the rest of the lines are thriving. So I don't, it's kind of like the KK effect where I'm like, I don't mind if you're not getting the goals, all this, if you're helping your teammates, if you're helping, like, putting in all of this work, it's going to come for you. It's just interesting because, like, KK was like, a little bit snake bit, a little bit unlucky, but like Aho doesn't normally have that. Granted, he's had some really good, like, especially either shorthanded or on some of the power plays, he's had some really good chances of breakaways, and his defensive efforts have been beautiful.
Oh, he's great when you leave him alone.
He's just is also, it's a weird struggle, and I really want him to figure it out because it's weird. Not, again, a game with Aho with no shots. Like, have we experienced that in a very long time?
It's something I'll have to go and do research on because I can't remember the last time that happened. But to be honest, like, after it, like, kind of having a little bit of time to sit and process that game too, I'm not surprised. It was a game, and I'm sure we'll kind of get into a review of that later. Is, one of us was there, and I can.
No, let's talk about the Avs game, Bailey. You were there. I was here yelling at my TV. It's fine.
It's a game. The Avs or the Canes are projected to get in at 4 p.m. the day before. They can't land at Centennial Airport because of the ice and the blizzard, which. It was awful. Let me tell you, I could barely get home from my shift on Friday.
I'm sorry, Bailey. I maintain the Avalanche created that snowstorm because they were struggling and we were on fire, and they're like, let's find a way.
Okay, no, it was the first snow for Denver of the season, so it was really.
You're telling me it had nothing to do with a team called the Avalanche? Okay.
I will say the slopes. Keystone still only has 6 slopes open, so you can't blame the Avalanche for that one. Anyway, no, it was a really interesting game. The Canes get in just a couple hours. Like, they landed, I think, at 11 a.m. that day. Altitude can be a bit of an adjustment. I saw a bunch of the guys working out before the game. It's and they get a really nice start, and that's something the Avalanche have really struggled with this season, is finding their momentum in the first period. Generally, that starts to pick up in the second period, as we saw. Thank you, Cale Makar, I guess. I will say that was a really good read defensively. Like, I'm not even going to say it was a bad pass by Ghost, because I would say if we were playing another team, anyone else that might just like stick out their stick and deflect that and get it out of their end. Makar was he is so talented, and he's so, like, that mindset of, okay, I can take this for an opportunity. Is he didn't just block it, he took it and went. He saw Aho was on his heels. Ghost was also a little bit off. So that was a great, unfortunate break there. It's funny too, because Cale Makar normally doesn't celebrate that much after his goals. So you could tell, like, that was kind of the beginning of the end for this game, because when Cale Makar starts to get fired up like that, it's a little bit of a warning sign for opposing teams.
And it's hard because I feel like the guys came in, the Canes came in with the mentality, yes, we've had this, like, let's keep doing what we're doing. Like, we're succeeding. And they did really well. They played their game. They were, like, nonstop pressure. They got the goals. For some reason, Georgia decided to stop more things this night, which I was like, you were a literal, like, drain. Why?
That's a whole other thing. Because anyway, Georgiev had a really, really good game against Winnipeg the day or 2 days beforehand. They just couldn't get the win. So the Hurricanes not only got in there jet lagged and a little bit thrown off from travel, they ran into an angry Avalanche team.
Well, yeah, because you see, like the Canes were doing their game, they were playing, they were good, but you have a frustrated Avs team, and the moment that they're able to turn up the tempo, the Canes are over here like, we normally like are fine to match this, but you've got the travel, it's just like I can't match this right now. And like for giving them credit, they came back. Like the game got tied, but they didn't give up. Like Nate just immediately answered, and you saw the Canes were like, we're fine. We're gonna come right back into this. And then the point of my contention. Yes. Yes. So you get
I'm really mad too, before you go into your rant. I'm really mad that I didn't ask Brind'Amour about this after the game too, because I would have loved to have heard what he thought, because we heard from Rod Brind'Amour and he was like, it is what it is. I would have loved to have heard.
He said more than that. I'm actually a little surprised Rod didn't get any sort of fine, because he said as much as he could say without actually
yeah.
Because I'm not even kidding. Our unpaid intern was like, well, what's the actual definition of the rule? And I read it to him and he was like, is that not what we just watched? Yeah. And I was like, yes.
A skate blade scraping against a...
I have seen less. I have seen less called. So it literally is. And even Tripp was poor Tripp. At the point, Tripp was like, he's like, I've looked into it. I've done the research. We've had goalies in the league. First of all, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the goalie, but there have been goalies in this league who have researched, sent a huge document saying this is what goaltender interference should be from a person that plays the position, has sent it to the league and has been asked about it. And he's like, I sent it to them. I don't know if they've looked at it, but I've done everything I can to clarify it. And I think it's the most annoying thing is that is like, everyone wants consistency across the league. This is probably the rule that gets the least amount of consistency, because 100%. Like Tripp said, it's supposed to be like Tripp said, okay, at this point it's an opinion call. But our lovely intern has given us the Rod Brind'Amour quote of the goalie challenge thing is the game for me. The rule is black and white, supposed to be. There's contact before the puck goes in. We've got a freeze frame where his skate is on our goalie's skate before it goes in, and then to be told there's absolutely no contact. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? That's all I'm going to say about that. Exactly. You have the actual rule where it says you cannot make contact with a goalie when he's trying to make the save. You cannot be in that blue paint when he's trying to make the save. And they actually have it. Like, they have the footage that Toronto's looking at for Toronto to be like, oh, yeah, there was no contact. It's like,
I will stand by this until the day that I die, and especially since I've had the opportunity to talk to more reporters about this who feel exactly the same way. They should make an official available after the game to ask about things like
that's what Seth Jarvis said it a long time ago. He goes, oh, you want to ask? Yeah, he goes, I think they should talk after the game just like we do.
Oh, absolutely. There's no reason that the league should protect these guys this much. I understand having respect for the guys that call the game. Absolutely. But you're allowed to have differing opinions. You're allowed to voice them in a respectful, civil manner.
If it's not that official making the call, like if they have to get the call from Toronto for the Toronto to say, oh, this is what the call actually is, give me that. Give me Toronto. Give me them calling. Like, let them answer the questions. Like, absolutely. I feel like I've watched, not a big football person, but I've watched football, and while they're like looking over things, they're like, hey, what should this call? They literally have say like, hey, as a rule expert, like someone calling in or whoever they have on the headset, as a rule expert, what are you seeing here? What do you think this call will be? Give me that from Toronto.
It should be more.
Tell me what you're figuring out up there. If you have different views than us, then go ahead and say from the camera angle that we had, this is what we saw. But for Rod to literally say, we have this camera angle, and for you to tell me that I'm looking at something that you're saying I'm not seeing it, but it's clearly right here, is wild.
And it should be more, because generally the NHL will release a statement, say with the rule that was challenged. So for instance, goaltender interference, this is what goaltender interference is listed as in the handbook. And that's most of the explanation that they give. And they're like, this guy is spotted in the crease here, but there is no contact made. And that's all they do. They need to make these guys available to media for them to ask these kinds of questions to get better, because we can ask Rod Brind'Amour, we can ask Jared Bednar all the questions we want regarding this, and we're going to get the most baseline, like boilerplate answer that anybody could give, because there's nothing they can say without a repercussion.
Which is wild. Like, if they can't say anything about it, but you're not going to sit and talk to us about it, that's like what it defeats the purpose. Like, it's literally like our way is the highway. We're not accepting any questions or anything. But it's like, but why don't you explain? Like, if you're whatever you say is law, fine. Why don't you explain it so not everyone keeps having these questions?
This isn't dictatorship hockey, and I feel weird. That's probably like a really horrible way to word it. But like, you cannot sit there and put your hand down on something like this and not have it like, no, this is that.
I have seen a guy skate by. I've seen it where a guy is skated by. His stick has like brushed the front of the goalie, and they said, "Oh, he touched him. It's goaltender interference." And here we have it where little skate on skate, so he can't push off or move. And he says, "Well, that's not goaltender interference." And I'm just like, is it based on who does it? Because at this point, if you're telling me that's not contact, which it clearly is, then I'm going to say you're giving preferential treatment because it was Mackinnon's skate on it, who, I'm sorry, Mackinnon was complaining a whole lot for a whole lot of no reason during that game. But I'm going to say you're giving that benefit of doubt because it's Mackinnon. If it had been Svech, Svech would have gotten that call. Svech would have been in the box immediately. And if you're going to give us a rule that we can't question, and even if we challenge it based on what we know of the rule, and this, I mean, yes, this is maybe me nitpicking it, but for someone to be able to try to challenge something because they know, like, hey, this is it, and then to be actually correct, but then still get punished. This is where the game actually went down. Makar gave them life, but the fact that we had to challenge this goaltender interference, which it was, and then we're told it's wrong, so then we're back on a power play. We're back on the penalty kill. So you've just got scored on, and then you're back on this, gifting that to them, and then they get score again. It's just like that was breaking the camel's back. Like, what are we doing here? Like, that's giving life to a team that was getting destroyed earlier. And now you're like, well, now they're back in it. Let's give them.
Well, and I mean, I don't think there was much slowing this Avs team down after that Makar goal, even with the goaltender interference.
I do think the Nature's goal to come back, though, got the Canes back into it. I think I think it started, like, I think the Avalanche were starting to go up here, and the Canes were starting to be like, and then you get the Nature's goal to show, hey, we're right back in here, and you kind of got the playing field a little bit more even. So then you get that goal, you get a challenge, and you're like, okay, we're about to be even again. And instead you're down again, and instead of down one goal, you're down two. Definitely the beginning of the end. God bless Martinook for trying his best to get us back in there, but I don't think there was any more life in those guys after that awful travel day.
Which, and I'll stand by something that I tweeted after the second period too. It's one of those things where, like, I had posted after the second period, and I was like, this is a good period of hockey from the Canes. The Avs were just better, and I will stand by that until I die. I don't care if the Avs scored 5 goals and the Hurricanes didn't stop every single one of them. I still don't think it was a horrible period of hockey. Like, I will stand by that. I think it wasn't nearly as good as the first. I think the Avs definitely took some of the wind out of the Canes' sails. I think there's definitely, somebody said it to me perfectly after the game too. This is that second period was a clinic for both teams and their special teams. I don't think it, obviously, the Avs came out of it stronger too, but the Hurricanes still played decent hockey during that second period. I don't think it was like, they sucked, they fell off, whatever. Like, it was still a really good period of hockey. They had a better third than they did a second. They really tried. They really tried to get back in it. Just that Avs team during the third period, you pull the goalie trying to hope something happened. That Avs team was just way too smothering towards the end. Yeah. They were picking up everything and anything that they could. The Hurricanes were doing a really good job at telegraphing passes for the first and maybe the first part or half of the second, but the Avs were just on top of them. They weren't letting anything get through the zone if they could help it. And it just made it really, really difficult.
I think that, and granted, again, we have the terrible travel day. I think I'm a little more heated. That call on top of our history at the Ball Arena, like we never play well there. We never play. I'm so grateful that we have apparently pretty much got out of there without injury. But I don't know. It's so annoying.
So, and yeah, I asked Rod a little bit about that before the game too, and he was just like, we just got to stick to our game, and it's that's really all you can do, especially with a history like that in Ball Arena. The Hurricanes have the worst record in Ball Arena, franchise record too, dating back to the Whalers too. Like they have never performed well when they're playing on the road against the Avs.
That altitude hurts us every time.
Yeah, well, I mean, even against the Nordiques too. So not quite at the same altitude, but still, they just don't have a lot of puck luck against that franchise. And that's the last thing I wanted to call it to Rod Brind'Amour. And so I kind of fluffed the question a little bit, but it comes down to puck luck at that point too, whether it be bouncy boards, like you
it was, I mean, it was definitely just the perfect, as funny as it is, because they're both natural disaster teams. It was literally the perfect storm, because then you get to us, coming back and playing Vegas, and it's right back to the Canes that have been playing on this 8-game streak all of a sudden. And so it's like, it can't, like, they didn't change much. Well, I will say we changed a lot of lines in that Avs game, and it scared me because I've never seen Jordan Staal get pinned into his own end as he did in the beginning of the third period for like almost 2 minutes, to the point where Svetch was so mad. That scared me. It scares me anytime the Jordans are separated from a line, because that it's really like balls to the wall. What's going to happen. So those lines were, I think that's the first we've really seen a big blend this season. And I guess it was kind of like, let's see what we can get going. I think it was just a lot. I feel like it was a lot to exhaustion and travel and things like that. But looking forward to the Vegas game, we have the lines pretty much back to what they were, and Vegas looked. Vegas looked like I expect the Utah Hockey Club to look like. Like this did not look like a team that has like dominated in the
This is also a team that is missing Seth Jarvis due to injury. It looks like he re-injured his shoulder during the Colorado game, which, jumping back really, really quickly, why is it always Colorado that we come out of with injury?
I don't know what your team's problem is. I don't know what it is. Cale Makar decides to throw his body at everyone and anyone whenever we're up there for some reason. Can he just like calm the frick down for a second? Okay, I know you guys are losing you've been losing games, but like chill out.
The Avs have a 3 home game winning streak. It's fine. Well, we're sitting pretty right now.
Stay in your altitude. Apparently it's helping. Anyway, to the Vegas game.
Forward to the Vegas Golden Knights game. They're missing Seth Jarvis.
You're missing Seth Jarvis, so you're like, okay, well, how are we gonna what's it gonna look like? Because you've also got, it's not just a line that's being changed, but you're getting your power play and your penalty kill. You're missing him from pretty much everywhere, which is like, you on his year where he slumped a little bit, you're like, okay, what are we doing without Seth Jarvis? Nowadays, you're like, what are we doing without Seth Jarvis? So like seeing the one of the smallest guys on the ice be so impactful to the point where he's out for one game, and it's not even a big thing. I think it's day to day. It's not a lot. It's we talked about this a little bit before recording, but it's probably he said he never got surgery on the shoulder that he injured last season. last season he played through it because we were at a time where he really needed to still be playing and producing. Right now, the team is kind of on a roll, so like give the guy a break to rest and not re-injure and make it worse.
We still have a really, really long season ahead of watching this team. And I think they're kind of in the same mindset too. Like there's a lot of games left to play. As I'm sitting here embodying Zach, 82 games, so many games.
Well,
man.
we're also one of the teams like thriving and not like we don't have, knock on wood, but we don't have a lot of people have injuries right now, and we have thankfully, besides Freddie, have not really had that issue. So
let's also
have a guy a little picked up, let him rest.
You know, and something we also haven't talked about too. During this road trip, Rod Brind'Amour mentioned that we were not going to see a consistent goalie all 3 games. We would see Spencer Martin for at least one of them. We saw that in Colorado. I don't think his play was horrible. I think there's a lot to work on. But you also see Kochetkov, who is having himself a season so far. He's been thrown into that starting role, which Rod Brind'Amour at the beginning of the season was very much like, I don't know if it's going to be a 60-40 type season, an 80-20. We're just going to kind of play it by ear, see how the goalies are feeling.
Also for anyone, I don't know if you knew this, Bailey, but it came across because some people, I think they saw him either at the Avs game or Golden Knights. I think it was before the Golden Knights. Fyodor Kochetkov was playing with a broken finger. His finger is broken.
I didn't see. No, I saw both of his hands before the Avs game. I didn't see anything.
Yeah, he literally he saw someone and apparently he said, "Yeah, like my finger's broken." And there's a picture of him with a cast on it.
I didn't see that,
and that's wild. He's still like our starting goaltender, and he's still playing through it. Which I guess it must not be that big of an issue. But like for a guy, he's using his hands more than.
Is it blocker or glove hand?
It's his, I believe it's his left hand, if I remember the picture right. I think it's his left hand.
Good grief, Piotr.
If it's his stick hand, maybe that's why the stick's being thrown extra. I don't know. That count, the stick throwing count is hilarious. If you want a drinking game for any of the Canes games, just take a drink every time Piotr throws a stick, and it's I'm sorry, you'll be feeling really good by the end of the game.
Oh, geez, we'll have to keep that in mind for playoffs.
Yeah, just a little recap of the Vegas game. You get Robinson starting off right away. The KK follows up with the beauty of a double rebound almost. You get a shorty from Stahl, which is beautiful because how many times have we've seen Stahl one-on-one with the goalie and you're not expecting that shot,
right?
And then you get Tyson Yost with like a no-look glance.
Wait, what did you call him?
Tyson.
Is it Tyson Yost?
My bad.
You're good.
I saw Tyson. I just saw Wires and it messed me up. But he gets like a no-look, like he's trying to get to the front of the net, not even looking at Slavin shooting, and it just like glances off of and goes in. Like, how about that for your first goal with the Canes? But and then you get Martin later with an empty netter. But like the Vegas, of course, spoiling the fun of Piotr getting a shutout, unfortunately. But it was a very heavily I don't think the Canes really were worried about that game at all.
No, this was a game where they
were back in their form, how they were before the Avalanche.
No, and that's where I'm kind of headed with this too. They finally have a normal day of travel. They have, Vegas isn't too far from here in Colorado, so they have a little bit of rest time that day. They're able to skate the morning of, kind of get their land legs back underneath them after the snowstorm and all the melting of the snow. And so it's what seems like a normal game for the Canes. They have their proper rest. They have the proper preparation. They're able to do what they need to do without any surprises of weather and things like that getting in the way. So I think it was a really good game for the Canes to finally get back into that form. And it gave them the opportunity to do what they needed to do and feel a lot less scattered, I guess is the best way to put that, during the game.
Yeah. And some people might notice we haven't, our power play hasn't been like in the beginning of the season. We were getting a power play goal pretty much at least once a game. The power play seems to have died off a little bit, but honestly, when you're 5-on-5 feels like a power play, I'm okay with it. Because it's also like, it's not like our power play is previous seasons we were on the power play, we're almost like, can we forfeit it because we're actually struggling? It's not like we're struggling. The shots just aren't going in the net. So I'm not.
No, it's not.
I'm not worried when we're on the power play anymore.
No,
it's just like, okay, it's a different look.
Yeah, it's not a thing that's become detrimental to the Canes anymore. It's not something that's hurting them by taking it. Like they've gotten into this rhythm where they can actually start to benefit. And I keep bringing up Jared Bednar quotes but I think this kind of fits this perfectly too. Is he mentioned this team is a team that if they want to be good at something, they are. Like they're the top, or they strive to be at the top of whatever it is that they do. And they're really good at finding that for themselves. And while the power play might be dying off for the Canes just a little bit, it's not something that's struggling. It's not like it's, bottom tier of the league. It's still a power play that is producing when it needs to and doing what it needs to when it needs to. The Canes are still kind of starting to find this, but it's getting to the point where the Canes are starting to find that necessary goal when they need it to, when they're not blowing their opponents out, obviously, but still it's something that you really like to see. And I think that power play is something that can be looked at a little bit in that regard as well.
Yeah, agreed. Well, so we talked a little bit about the previous games, and of course we have the Utah Hockey Club game coming up, but we're going to have a quick break here and a word from our wonderful sponsors, and we'll be right back with you. All right, Zach, I don't know about you, but Black Friday, it's November. Black Friday sales are coming up, and I'm kind of excited about them. A lot of businesses, like, they do them either closer to Black Friday or throughout the month. And when you get that deal that you're like, oh, this thing definitely won't go on sale. But then it does, and it's and it's like the one thing you were waiting on all year. Or it's like they had a sale earlier in the year, and then you're like, oh, I missed it. And they put it back on sale for Black Friday. You're like, now's the time to grab it.
Right.
What's even better? With Raycon, because with Raycon, you get amazing deals on premium audio every day of the year. But that doesn't mean they're not having any Black Friday sales. Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Far from it. They're actually doubling down on the amazing value by offering our viewers up to 30% worldwide. So it's not even a Sebastian Aho deal. We got a Cam Ward deal out there.
Oh, well, I mean, if you're talking about the Carolina Hurricanes Hall of Famer Cam Ward, I mean, you have to make that deal even more special. So.
I mean, it's a Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal that you'll appreciate every day, just like we appreciated Cam Ward every time he was in our net. Raycon's everyday earbuds, especially if you've checked out their latest model, which includes plenty of new features that make them even more of a must-have for any audio lover. For example, now they feature a 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once, which I kind of love. I'm definitely one of those people when I go out for my errands to when I go shopping in the grocery store, and sometimes I just really just want to focus. I put my earbuds in and I'm like, nobody talk to me. Let me get to this list, especially if I'm on a time crunch.
Right.
And being able, so that battery life is super nice that you don't have to charge them every day. You can just use them, and then eventually 32 hours. I mean, that lasts longer than you think.
It does, yeah, especially if you just put them in their charger and just let them sit for a bit. Yeah, they last a good bit. Like, you can go for about almost 4 or 5 days, even if you don't use them. They still have life. So yeah, that's pretty solid.
But also with that shopping in the grocery store, I not just listening to music, but also tuning out outside noise. The Raycon's everyday earbuds also come with active noise cancellation. It's a feature that's a must-have for me. Whether it's grocery shopping, on trips, like if you're in the car and people up front are like your backseat princess. Sorry, maybe backseat king for you, but people are talking or they're listening to something you don't want to. You could just turn those on and listen to whatever else you want, or get some sleep because you have some audiobook or a podcast, or even us keeping you company in the long car ride. So because that's another thing. Although Raycon's quality rivals some of the biggest names in premium audio, Raycon starts at just half the price of the other guys. So they're already at an incredible deal, even before you factor in their Black Friday and Cyber Monday offer of up to 30% off site wide. Again, I'm just going to say that's a great deal, whether it's for like everybody can use some new headphones come around the time of the year, whether they've lost ones that they have or they just start to like, they don't work
They're
as well.
old. Yeah, they're old. And yeah, you just need something. You need a new pair. So Kat, what's the discount that we can use if we have to go buy some? Like, what's the code?
What's the code? Oh, yeah. It's time to save big for the Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get up to 30% off site wide. That's right. You get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/THPN.
I mean, hey, you can't go wrong with using a little network deal. And, big shout out to our guys for doing that. So, hey, if you need some cool headphones, use that Camward discount, guys. THPN.
Yep. Now's the perfect time to scoop them up if you haven't already. And don't worry, if you're not as impressed as we are, the Raycons offers a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you can't really lose. Go snag that Camward discount again at buyraycon.com/THPN.
Hockey is back. From the sounds of the board slamming to the eruption of a game-tying or game-winning goal, there's nothing quite like experiencing hockey in person. At GameTime, you can get in on the action for hockey, other sport events, concerts, and shows. GameTime has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play and your favorite shows live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Looking ahead, when the Rangers come to town on November 27th to the Lenovo Center, you'd expect the ticket prices to be through the roof, considering fans from Cary might make their way over, but that's not the case with GameTime. The super deal available right now, Section 109, Row G, just $155. Amazing deals like Section 309 for $51. Available on GameTime. And GameTime Picks makes it easy for you to find deals on sports, concert shows that you want to get to. Even last call deals for even better savings. I love the idea of the last call feature that, if you just want to spontaneously go to a show, a sporting event last second, you still find great deals. Plus, when you buy, get the view of your seat so you don't even have to question the sight line that you'll have. So GameTime Picks, again, just makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more by curating your experience. All-in pricing, if you toggle this on, that feature shows you the total up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime Picks. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download GameTime to get today. What time is it? Game time. The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck's dropping on the 24-25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. Look into something like winning the MVP, division winners, and more, also available at DraftKings. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That is code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Our OG sponsor, Primo X Hockey. Whether it's apparel, bags, goalie gear, jerseys, you name it, Primo X. Yeah, even a couple buckets for you. Primo X Hockey has it for you. They are located here in Raleigh, 1401 Diggs Drive, Suite E. Monday through Friday, they're open 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Even have availability and times open on the weekend from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday and 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. So for local pickup, save 20% with code in-store pickup online. How about that deal? Also use code SurgeCast for 20% off your Sebastian Aho deals as well. So even skate sharpening, $5. How about that deal? Primo X Hockey. They have all the hockey gear to get you right for the season.
And welcome back. I always love hearing about our wonderful sponsors because honestly, they empower us to do these episodes. Thankful for our network that helps us with these wonderful sponsors. You guys, it's holiday season. Get on all of those deals.
Absolutely.
Save the money. Do what you can for others.
I was going to say, and especially if you're helping out local brands too.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. So not to throw anything your way, but just saying, if you can help out a local company, I'd say that's pretty helpful. Anyway,
so we covered the two home games against Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. The Canes are still on the road. Of course, we talked about the Avs and Vegas. Now they're still on the road against Utah coming up Wednesday at 9:00. Sorry for the late night Canes. I'm glad you guys all enjoyed the recent TikTok, but it's true. You get it so excited. It comes 7:00 and you have to wait 2 or 3 more hours. And it's just give me all the coffee. For Utah, do you have who we should be looking? I mean, Utah Hockey Club, of course, used to be the Arizona Coyotes. Rest in peace to the best jersey of all times. But do you have on this team who people should be on the watch? Because Utah's had some success this season. I think they're back to their regular scheduled programming, but in the beginning of the season, they did have quite a bit of success.
I will say they look like they've had a lot of depth scoring and depth production, which I think Canes fans can kind of sit there and empathize with. Players to watch, and I'm going off of the NHL app. This information is free to anybody who would like to use it. As far as the Hurricanes go, Jordan Martinook, who's been on a heck of a streak lately with 5 goals, Martin Necas, 6 assists, and 9 points total so far. As far as Utah Hockey Club goes, we have goals, assists, and points to watch. Alex Kerfoot, who currently has 2 goals as of right now. And I am looking at Dylan Guenther, who is sitting, or actually, no, I believe this is in the past 5 games too. So with those into account, Alex Kerfoot with 2 goals in the last 5 games so far. Dylan Guenther with 7 goals and 5 assists for 12 points in 15 games. As far as the past 5 games go, he's got 3 assists and 4 points. So he's been on a bit of a heater with production in regards to Utah's club and play so far. Goaltending matchups, Pyotr Kochetkov is currently doing really, really well with the Canes. 8-1-0 record, 2.45 goals against average, 902 save percentage, 0 shutouts, which, is neither here nor there. Connor Ingram has been fantastic for this Utah team so far. 6-3-3 record, which is, to drop 3 and still get a point out of him for your team, still really impressive. 3.40 goals against, which isn't what you want to see out of your starting goaltender, but still there's a lot of goaltenders that are doing a lot worse here in the National Hockey League so far. 0.879 save percentage. In the last 10 games, the Hurricanes obviously have the advantage here with a 9-1-0 record. Utah sitting at 3-5-2. They're playing them here November 13th. We have another game against them coming up in February. So whoever drops this game has another opportunity coming up in February and a few months to regroup.
And to tag on to all of that, I will say this is a game I do remember vividly in past seasons. The Canes losing to the Arizona Coyotes, and maybe one of the first few times I really heard the boos coming towards our Canes. Unfortunately, this is definitely a team. If I was telling you that we really should beat the Philadelphia Flyers, if the Canes are playing the way the Canes are playing right now, they really should beat the Utah Hockey Club. And it's nothing against the Utah Hockey Club if they play above and beyond and we are not on our game. I think Utah has a chance. I just don't think with the way the team is set up, I don't think I think it's a rebuild team. Like, I don't think it's set up to be a stiff competition for us right now.
No, I am always of the firm mindset that with an expansion team or a relocated team, they're not supposed to be good their first year of existence.
And they weren't.
It's a rite of passage.
They weren't good in Arizona, so
no, it's a rite of passage for them. They have to earn. They've obviously got a great fan base going for them so far. They're super excited to have a hockey team. They've got to earn the wins and the things coming for them. Maybe if you're looking to structure your team, look at what Seattle's done. They had a kind of crappy first year, and then they've been on the rise ever since. So
yeah. So
look at that.
I mean, I'm glad that like Utah's just getting their bearings again. Again, they had a whole lot of stuff go on in the offseason. They had a lot of stuff go on in their previous location. We're just happy those guys can still be, playing hockey. And most of them are still back like with their teammates that they were last year. So yes, definitely keep in mind all the players that Bailey mentioned. But it should be a good outing for your Carolina Hurricanes. Looking forward to, I think our next 2 games then will be Ottawa and St. Louis.
So Ottawa is actually going to be playing the day after we play the Utah Hockey Club. They should, if I remember correctly, they will be playing the Flyers. So the Hurricanes will have 2 days of rest, whereas the Senators will have 1 after that game. The Senators are kind of middle of the board right now.
We're going to get to see. And sorry, we're gonna get to see Olmark with his new team probably for the first time, which is gonna be
absolutely, yeah, no, and I want to talk about those stats here in a second too. But Ottawa, they're currently sitting at 7-0-0, or 7-7-0. Sorry, 7-7-0 Hurricanes at this point, and all of this is subject to change. Is this game we are not going to see until the 16th? So take everything I'm saying here with a little bit of a grain of salt. Hurricanes are currently 11-3-0, so obviously record difference. There's a bit of a team doing better. Their players to watch, obviously the Hurricanes players for all of these stats are going to stay the same. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on the opposing team with these upcoming reviews. Brady Tkachuk, past 5 games, has had 2 goals. As far as I'm seeing,
probably more fights than goals. Let's be honest.
Probably more fights than goals, to be completely honest. He's also in the past couple of games also leading the team in points at 5. Tim Stützle is also another player to watch listed in his playmaking ability and assists at 4. Goaltending matchups, you're looking at Linus Ullmark and Anton Forsberg, who have actually had it's gone very half and half with who's had their starts. Linus Ullmark currently sitting at a 3-4-0 record, 2.87 goals against, 0.890 save percentage, which is a little interesting considering how successful he was last season. Anton Forsberg currently sitting at 3-3-0, 2.72 goals against average, 0.905 save percentage. So with the starts that he's had, he looks to be the better option for Ottawa.
There's also, it's also knowing Forsberg has a little bit more history with the team. So knowing, we've learned multiple times with any goalie that's been with the Canes, depending on the team is how the goalie's honestly going to play. The Canes make a lot of goalies look really good. When goalies go to other teams are very excited. Like, people are really excited. They're like, that's a really good goalie. We can't wait to have him. But when you put your defense in front of the goalie, is your defense going to help that goalie out to maintain that goalie being extremely good? Like, it's all about the chemistry of it, just as it is when you get players at the deadline or players in trade. Like, you're like, this player is really good, but does he fit your system? Which is what the Canes do really well at, is that they always make sure this guy's going to fit our system.
Absolutely.
Our unpaid intern did let us know that Tkachuk did have 11 penalty minutes versus Buffalo on the 5th of November. And I'm not surprised. Hopefully him and Piotr don't come to fisticuffs when we play them. But it will be a very fun. They'll be back home for this game. I'm actually more interested in our next opponent. So we'll have a back-to-back this weekend. Obviously, we'll have Ottawa on Saturday, and then we have the St. Louis Blues on Sunday. The team that gave us our one loss of the road trip. And it was not the team any of us expected to.
No, and it's a team that, if I remember the game correctly, the Hurricanes had a really nice start and lost their momentum through the game. It's
That
a
second
game-
period killed us. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a game that I'm sure the Hurricanes want back. And good thing that we have they're a central team matchup, so we only see them one more time, and that will be this weekend, and then we don't have to see Jordan Binnington and company for the rest of the season, bearing playoffs and a potential Stanley Cup final matchup, but we won't get into that.
I am sure the guys are going to want to get this one back, though.
Oh, absolutely. So looking at players to watch, Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich, and Jordan Kyrou are listed as the goal, assist, and points players to watch. Jordan Kyrou, 3 goals in the past couple of games, Buchnevich with 2 assists, and Jordan Kyrou with 4 total points in the past couple of games. That is not season rankings. This is just what the NHL app is giving me. Again, goaltending. Jordan Binnington has been their main starter with 10 starts, 3.28 goals against average, 0.886 save percentage. Joel Hofer, which I believe is how you say that last name. I'm hoping I get that correct. 3-2-0 on the season, 3.33 goals against, 0.903 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Which is 1 more than Jordan Binnington has this season so far. In the last 10 games, they're on a bit of a kind of get back. So I'm wondering how much of an angry Blues team we're going to see. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak, 4-6-0 in the last 10 games. Yeah. Season stats, their power play is what looks to be the worst in the league too. So the Hurricanes' 10th rated penalty kill will have something to do there. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not this is a team that we play down to with their losing streaks, or if we're running into another frustrated Blues team.
I'm going to say with these upcoming games, these next 3 games are what you have, and then you're going to get back into your Metro matchups. What I want to see with these games, particularly all of them, the Canes, again, on their top performance, should win. What I want to see probably from these games is the continuance of playing our game no matter who we're playing. Don't play down to the opponent. I want to see Aho. I want to see him visible in these games. These are games that he should be very visible in, because he should be pretty good matchup against some of the other teams where he should shine. Don't know if we'll see Jarvis in Utah. I would honestly, I wouldn't play him. I would honestly let him rest until Saturday.
You've got one more game till you guys are back at home. That's one more game. Honestly, get him on a jet, send him back home, tell him to rest.
Like 3 more days of rest. I mean, my shoulder hurts after like one night out doing volleyball. So give him some rest, and then he's got a back-to-back and see how he feels. But I would say probably I wouldn't want to see Jarvis against Utah. I want to see an emergence of Aho in these games. I want to see us less in the box if possible.
I will say, and looking at standings too. So Vegas currently sits at 8th in the league. Utah is at 18th, and Seattle is at 22nd. These are perfect games for Aho to try to find his rhythm again, because as we kind of mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, this is a season where Aho is, I think, kind of hit the hardest. Amongst the team. He lost a partner that he had a lot of great chemistry with, which, if anyone is curious on how Teuvo Teravainen is doing, he is in peak Teuvo Teravainen form in the locker room. Media went in during the Colorado Blackhawks game a couple weeks ago, and he bolted as soon as media went in there, which I thought was hilarious. But Yeah, I think Aho's one of the guys that's kind of struggling to find his rhythm the most. He's struggling to kind of find himself because he lost a part of himself that he's had for past couple of seasons. And so I think this is a really nice opportunity for him to figure out how to gel with what he's been given. Figure out, okay, you've been given this nice hefty contract by the team. What does that mean for your play going forward? Are you being paid to score goals and be the superstar of this team? Or are you being paid to be that leader and helping everybody else out on the ice? I can promise what he's not getting paid to do is sit there and be invisible. So it is really, really important that he kind of find that rhythm sooner rather than later.
And
because
Rod
that's
has
gonna
that trust
be-
in him because when he struggled at the beginning, people asked and he goes, "You don't have to ask me about Aho. I'm not worried about Aho." And he probably wasn't. And I think now probably he's a little bit, because he did say a thing being like, you see the top performers on other teams show up. We need our top performers to do that. And I feel like that was probably a little bit directed at him and Svetch
I'm sure.
because
Yeah.
they have been the ones struggling a little bit. So I would say my takeaways from these upcoming games is I want to see Aho. I want to see less of Jarvis, honestly. And I want to see us less in the
Never
box.
thought we'd say that.
I know. Who would have thought? So those are probably my 3 takeaways of the upcoming games. Is there any that you would like to add?
I honestly, consistency. I want to see they've
Score
popped off.
first too. Score first, as I would say.
Score
That's what
first
I
is
would
going to
want.
be that's going to be huge for this team. So keep setting the tone early, because it's really to set that tone and then keep that consistency is what's going to continue to win you games. It's what's going to continue to make you look really, really dangerous against other, whether it be the 32nd rated team in the league or the first. It's what's going to make you look really, really dangerous. And keeping that up is really, really important against different opponents. Finding a rhythm, being versatile, which Rod is really, really good at making this team very versatile up and down the lineup, and keep that depth scoring coming. Because as much as you want those top guys to show up, you don't want them to show up at the detriment of making your bottom 6 worse. So making sure that that depth stays in place. I'm also going to sit there and say that defense needs to become better. You need to see more out of your line, your pairing with Gostisbehere and Walker. It can't just be guys like Orlov and Slavin and even Burns, who's starting to show up recently.
I will say the Colorado game was probably the worst game from Walker. I joked saying he was a double agent. That was probably the worst game I've seen from him this season. I don't know what it was. You could definitely see a little of resurgence in Ghost, that when he got his pass like intercepted, you could tell he was ready to get back there and make him he was mad. He was ready to get back into it. But yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think our penalty kill can continue to get better. I don't think it's at the quality it was previously. Again, we have new guys. I'm seeing it get beat a little more frequently than we've ever seen it before. But
not that we've ever seen it, but it's been it hasn't been the best that it's been.
It hasn't been the best. It's not the worst. It hasn't been the best. After a while, it's like normally you would bend and not break, and this one, after a while, it seems we break every now and then.
I will say, we say that knowing that the Hurricanes have the 10th.
We have high expectations. It's us having high expectations.
They are both the penalty kill and the power play currently sit at the 10th rated in the league. So it's not like we're sitting there and saying, oh, you got to be the best, because they're obviously good. They're good enough to be top 10 in both. But it's still, you want to see more out of it.
Yeah. So that's our few takeaways for the upcoming games. It'll be really fun. Again, we've got one more away game, and then the Canes will be back for a doubleheader in the weekend. I'm super excited. It is my dad's birthday on Sunday, so we're doing a whole big shindig. So we're very excited for the home games to come back. But what's super fun too is about upcoming games. It's a little bit further, closer to Thanksgiving. I guess there's kind of 2 announcements. First of all, if you're following any of the Carolina Hurricanes staff, from the president to the GM to multiple people, they have they have a little bit of fun Thanksgiving things for you guys, and they have certain codes that you can go get discounted tickets. I believe for the first one, it's November 25th. And then let me pull it back up. Yeah, it's tickets for turkeys. If you follow them on X, even some of the graphics guys, I have them. They each have their own. I think it's their last names are the codes, but there's $25 upper level tickets and $65 lower level tickets for the games versus the Dallas Stars on the 25th of November, and then on the 3rd of December against the Seattle Kraken. So those are 2 games, and it's around the holidays, so they're expecting, a lot of people will probably be traveling, won't be able to make the games. But if you're local and you need something to do those games, and you're like, hey, it could be a fun family outing, go grab one of those tickets. Oh yeah, if we want to support Doug, it's the last name, of course, is Wharf. I'm pretty sure you can also use Tolsky. So there's multiple you can go and check out. You can also tweet at us and we can keep retweeting and passing them along. But I mean, it's a great way. I'm going to be at all the holiday ones pretty much. So, but yeah, they just want the Canes to still feel supported and to also be like, hey, we know there's a lot going on during the holidays. Again, tickets for turkeys. There's a lot going on, but they want to give a little fun little discount to their fans, and also, hey, grab your family for discounted tickets and all sit together to watch a game together. That's amazing. But what I said goes hand in hand with that is the game on Tuesday, November 25th against the Dallas Stars is actually the team is partnered with the Capital Broadcasting Company here in Raleigh to simulcast 2 of the FanDuel Sports Network game, which is the one on the 25th. It will air on Fox 50 at 7:00, and then also on Friday, November 29th, the 3:00 game. Is it not? Oh, is it Monday? Or is it Tuesday? 25th. It's Monday. Okay, sorry. Their press thing had it wrong. Their press thing had it wrong. Unpaid intern. It's not me.
Unpaid intern.
They put Tuesday.
Here for the win.
Monday, November 25th. The Dallas Stars at 7:00, and then the 3:00 game on Friday, November 29th. So all around the holidays, the Canes are gifting us with multiple things, whether it's discounted tickets to go see it in person or to expand live broadcasts during Thanksgiving week. And you get to see them on local channels, which is awesome. I mean, that's just another example of what our new leadership team over at the Canes has really been. They have really been community forward, and it's been fantastic to see.
Well, it helps when you have a community forward president kind of at the helm. So
yeah. And speaking of, our last bit of news for this episode is we have presented we, as in the Canes, have presented Asheville Hockey League with $75,000 donation. That is amazing.
Absolutely.
If you've been going to the games and seeing the raise up to $1 million raffle, it's like the money that they have been raising in efforts for Hurricane Helene it's been amazing. They have done these raffles before, but you can tell that they've just made it above and beyond because they realize the need in the community and how they can reach out and help.
And from an outside perspective too, and I say that as somebody who does not live in the state currently, to be able to kind of look in and see how much this community is doing for people who are still recovering from this travesty. It's really inspiring to see how you all have kind of shown up for your own community, your own state, and being able to kind of raise that. So props to everybody out there too. It's not just the Hurricanes doing it. They can't do it without you guys too. So it's really, really inspiring and really cool to see that from you guys.
So looking more into this, if you, of course, you can go look at the news articles on Carolina Hurricanes website, but initially committing $50,000 from the organization's Raise Up $1 million raffle program to the efforts. The team then offered to match the final $25,000. Then the GoFundMe reached $25,000, and then the NHL also assisted with $10,000 more. So that's
awesome.
That's amazing. That's the league coming around because the rink was destroyed in Asheville. That's them coming saying, "Hey, we recognize that your love and passion has been taken from you, and we're here to bring it back."
The league does not always have wins, but when they do,
they might not know what goaltender interference is, but can they raise money for you? Heck yeah.
Yes, sir.
They want to make a rink for you so they can get the call wrong in your home rink by you. Just kidding.
And with that, that's going to do it for our episode for you guys today. Thank you for listening and tuning in. Again, we miss Zach. We hope he's feeling better enough to record with us next week.
We miss giving him a hard time.
We do. But Kat, you want to tell the people where they can find Zach?
Oh, gosh. Everywhere. If you want to find him, I get to do this. If you want to find him on Twix at One True Zach, you can spell it out, not the number one, but it's spelled ONE True Zach. And then you can find him on everything Locked On Hurricanes.
Yep. LO_Hurricanes, I believe it is on Twix. Find his articles over at the Hockey Writers, where he's in the lab almost every day.
Yep. So go give him some love and support and well wishes for feeling better. As I am also struggling with a little bit of a cold. Totally understand. It's going around.
I don't get it.
We're a couple miles away, so
yeah.
And you're probably not having the difference in temperature.
I was gonna say with my announcement here, hopefully it's gone by the time I get out there. I haven't made this announcement yet as we're kind of wrapping up Zach's whole thing. I meant to give this announcement on Saturday. I'm gonna be out in North Carolina covering your Carolina Hurricanes and the Colorado Avalanche on December 5th. So if you are...
Come deal with our altitude.
Yeah, which is none. So I will be breathing a lot easier, which is nice. But if you're going to be at a game, come say hi. Would love to see you. Planning on reaching out to a couple of my Hurricanes contacts, so hopefully say hi as well. Kat, being the wonderful twin that she is boarding me up for a couple nights. So I'm super excited to be out there. It's going to be a trip.
We love to have you. Come support your One True team. We understand.
I'm not sure the Hockey News would understand,
but yes, and you can also, of course, while we're talking about it, you can also find our lovely network, the Hockey Podcast Network. Where did it go? There it is. The Hockey Podcast Network. Of course, you find it at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, THPN. I know you recognize that, especially during our ads. If you want any of the discounts, a lot of them come from code THPN. But again, they have a wide array of different hockey podcasts, a wide array of different hosts. If you have a second favorite team, like Bailey, you can go find another podcast that covers them there.
Whoa.
But no, really, they're awesome. They're what help us get these wonderful sponsors, and they're super supportive, and we greatly appreciate them. So again, you can check them out at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com. Bailey, where can they find the SurgeCast?
Anybody who's looking to listen to us lovely people talk about hockey, you can find us over on X, Instagram, and YouTube at the SurgeCast. Over on YouTube, just type in the SurgeCast in your search bar and you'll be set to go. If you're watching this on YouTube, hi, hello, how you doing? Be sure to hit that like button down below, hit that big red subscribe button, and hit that bell notification icon while you're at it so you never miss an episode upload. We not only post long videos and podcasts like this one, but we also post reels, so you can kind of get the inside scoop on what podcasts are maybe looking like. So be sure to go check that out. There's link trees in all of our bios where you can figure out not only where to find us lovely co-hosts, but you can also find out where to listen to the podcast, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. That's where you can check it out. As far as I go, you can follow me over on X at Bailey Curtis, and that is Bailey with 2 Y's. Follow me over on Instagram at Bailey Lynn Curtis. This is the first time I get to announce this as well. I am currently the writer and beat reporter for the Colorado Avalanche over at the Hockey News. So if you're looking to find some of my articles, support some of my work there, please be sure to follow me on my socials. I've got a link in my bio that links to all of my articles. Again, any support and clicks and whatever you can provide is super helpful. Kat, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, X, Twix, whatever you call it, at Caniac Chick, or on TikTok at KVT Hunter 74. Yeah, same places as usual. But again, it was super fun to talk with you tonight, Bailey. I've recently just had Zach, and I love Zach, but having a little bit of girl time talking Canes hockey is always fun. But we hope Zach feels better, and hopefully he will join us for next week's episode, of course. So for this episode of the SurgeCast, I'm Kat.
I'm Bailey.
And we'll see you next time at the SurgeCast.
Later, y'all.
See ya.